Hi, my name is Jose Morales, and in today's video we will be going over 6 different training modalities so you can implement them in your own workout. I'll go over the benefits of each exercise, including the proper form, targeted muscles, common mistakes, and variations you could always increase the difficulty to your own ability. Modalities in this video include the Swiss ball, the medicine ball, kettlebell, calisthenics or bodyweight exercises, dumbbells and the barbell following a warm-up and ending in a cool-down. For our warm-up, our goal is to get our cardiovascular system active beyond our resting heart rate to provoke higher blood flow, better oxygen delivery, and to prepare the body for our main program. The warm-up segment will total in 10 minutes. And to start, we will do a 4-minute jog on a treadmill to bring our heart rate above resting. With a jog, we are able to target the entire body from the sternocleidomastoid to the soleus. Jogging uses our glycolytic system, allowing us to maintain our energy stores of our phosphagen system for later in the program. While jogging, you want to find a comfortable speed which doesn't resemble a fast walk and one that doesn't become a sprint. We want to keep the entire warm-up relatively low intensity. Going to a sprint-like movement will defeat the purpose of the warm-up and make you utilize your phosphagen system stores now when they are needed later. During the jog, you want to make sure to keep a good pace, steady pace, and what I did during my warm-up is that I constantly During my jog, I made sure to find the right pace that was fit for me, for my own stride. If I went too fast, I would be going into a sprint, and if I went too slow, I would be going into a walk. So I made sure to find that right pace for me so I could keep a constant jog, one that wouldn't make me break a heavy sweat, just one that would get my body going and warm up the entire body for the rest of the program. After the jog, we will go into high knees for 1 minute. For this warm up, what you want to do is keep your knees high and level with your waist while pushing off the front of your foot or the balls of your feet without letting your talus touch the ground. By not letting your talus touch the ground, you will be making use of your quadriceps, hamstrings, gluteus, gastrocnemius, and your entire core, mainly your erector spinae muscles to stabilize your upper body. And just like the jog, you want to find that right pace for you so you stay within that glycolytic system or endurance-based energy stores. Now we will do jump rope for 2 minutes. Following the high knees portion of this warm up, we will go into jump rope. The jump rope will work your quads, hamstrings, glutes, oblique muscles, forearms, biceps, and chest muscles. This warm up works a lot of the upper body and the lower body, making it great if you want to build your cardiovascular endurance and your bone density, since you do have a lot of impact whenever you're doing those jumps. This warm-up also works on your balance and your coordination, so it's great for stabilizer muscles that you will be using in a later phase of this program. When it comes to the jump rope, a lot of the common mistakes are just jumping too high like I am doing here, or swinging your arms too far out, requiring a lot more use of your arms. What you want to do is keep your arms a little bit closer, jump a little less higher, and keep the jump rope swinging pretty fast with each repetition. By doing so, you will get less tired, and as time progresses and you get a little bit more practice, it'll get a lot easier, and you won't struggle as I am doing here, and you will be able to coordinate all your muscles together a lot better. Following the general warm-up section of the warm-up segment, we will go into our specific warm-ups. To start, we will do inchworms for an entire minute, and this will isolate your muscles and target them more specifically for this part of the warm-up. The inchworm is a really good dynamic stretch for your lower back, glutes, gastrocnemius, and hamstrings for the lower end of your body. For this warm-up, what you want to do is get in a V position as you are on the ground. And as you're doing so, you want to make sure to keep your knees as locked out as you can, making sure to be in a point of discomfort but not one that would hurt. And as you inchworm, you want to get in a plank position right before going back up with your feet and going back out again. Following the inchworms, we will do ankle hip rockers for 1 minute. The purpose of this warm-up is to activate your stabilizer muscles in your ankle and to also activate your hip flexors, which will later help you for one of our modalities, which are the step-ups. Ankle hip rockers are great for ankle flexibility, and what you want to do when performing these is to have a 90-degree angle on both your back leg and front leg, and you want to rock back and forth to that point of mild discomfort where you feel the stretch both in your hamstring and at the bottom of your Achilles tendon. Right after the ankle hip rockers, we will go right into the Cossack squats. What these are, it's a warm-up that activates your adductor and abductor muscles in your legs, and they will prepare you for any lateral movements for later in the training program. Moreover, this particular warm-up is really good for activating your gluteus medius, which a lot of warm-ups typically don't. These squats are also good for improving your range of motion, and they could even serve as a progression for pistol squats or any one-legged unilateral squats. After our warm-up, we will go into our first modality, which is Swiss ball exercises. For the first exercise, we will be doing a stability push-up with the ball centered. So this entire modality for the upper body, we will focus on push-ups, and with the Swiss ball in the center, this will give you a need to activate your stabilizer muscles and use a lot of your core to keep your body stable on the Swiss ball as you're performing these push-ups. For each of these reps, you want to have slow, controlled repetitions to make sure you're getting proper muscle activation and to get the most out of this particular exercise. These push-ups will also target your lower back muscles and your lower abdominals. Like I said earlier, just to keep you stable on that ball. As you're performing these push-ups, it is a lot more difficult to keep stable since you don't have a stable position with your legs. After doing the push-ups, the stability push-ups with the ball centered on your hips, we will go into decline push-ups with the Swiss ball on our ankles. The Swiss ball will serve as an anchor point to put your body in a decline during these push-ups, and with the Swiss ball you will be able to target your triceps, anterior deltoids, pectorals, and the muscles under your arm, right next to the triceps. During these push-ups, you want to make sure not to let your core sag and to keep your body as straight as possible and as firm as possible to be able to complete a proper decline push-up. Next, we would do stability push-ups, but with the ball on our hands, on our palms. What this will do is put us on an incline, which will work different muscle groups compared to the decline or the stability ball centered on our hips. This particular push-up will require you to use a lot more of your chest, shoulders, and triceps, and it'll require a great deal of flexion to keep your body stable while being on this unstable position with the Swiss ball. For this exercise, because it is the hardest variation, you do want to be focused when and how you are flexing to make sure you keep your body stable and to maintain it on top of the ball without falling off. And to end the upper body segment of these variations for the Swiss ball, we will now go into our lower body variations for the Swiss ball. For the lower body portion of the Swiss ball modality, we will go into leg curls. For the first variation, we would do bilateral leg curls, and for proper form, you want to make sure to keep your arms to your side so that you have a stable position when performing these curls. And something very important to note, you want to make sure you keep your hips off the ground at all times to the best of your ability, and to have controlled movements with each repetition so that you get appropriate activation of all the muscles. The targeted muscles for this particular exercise are your biceps femoris, your gastrocnemius, and your soleus muscles at the bottom of your leg. And when performing these leg curls, you want to make sure that your hips don't drop to the ground. So if you ever catch yourself falling, you want to push them right back up, and you will make sure to get proper activation of all the muscles during this exercise. For the next variation, we will go into unilateral leg curls, and positioning is very similar to the bilateral leg curls. The only difference is that you want to keep one leg up. You have two options. You could either curl your leg as I did here, or you could just put it straight up. And for these particular curls, it is a lot tougher since most of your body weight is going on a single leg. So it does require a little bit more patience, and you do want to have slower repetitions to get proper muscle activation. The muscles activated in this particular exercise Following the unilateral leg curls, we will go into bilateral leg curls once again, but we will get rid of our stability by putting or crossing our arms across our chest. What this would do is that it'll require a lot more use of the stability muscles, especially a lot of core, just to be able to complete the rep. As you can see, it is very challenging. That's why this is the third variation, which would be the hardest one, and it does take quite a bit of practice to get it right. Same as the other variations, you want to have controlled movements throughout the entire rep. This way you properly target the muscles you want and reap all the benefits of this particular exercise. For our second modality, we will do medicine ball tricep extensions. For the first variation, we will start with laying tricep extensions. And the purpose of this exercise is to target your triceps, specifically isolated with the use of the medicine ball as your counterforce. In regards to proper form, you want to make sure that your elbows don't move up or down, or that you're not using any impulse to get the medicine ball to go up, and you want to avoid using the rest of your body to get that medicine ball moving. By using primarily the triceps, you will get proper activation just like any other exercise, and you want to make sure to have those controlled movements to reap all the benefits. Following the first variation, we will go into standing tricep extensions. What this will do is activate a lot more muscle groups than if you were just laying. So the muscle groups targeted in this particular variation would include more of your shoulders, chest, latissimus dorsi, and forearms. Especially a lot more core activation. Because you're standing, you do have to coordinate and balance yourself a lot more, since that moving weight, the medicine ball, is throwing you off balance. Especially when you put it behind your head, your body wants to go back, so you will use a lot more of your abdominal area to keep yourself stable. For the third variation of the upper body tricep extensions with the medicine ball, we will go into decline tricep extensions. For the decline tricep extensions, it's good to have a decline bench, but in this case, I did not have access to that equipment, so what I did is I improvised. You could use your normal incline bench press bench, and you could add some plates underneath the front, and that'll give you a slight decline, just enough for you to get different muscle activation when performing this exercise. The decline in this particular variation allows for more range of motion and for increased muscle fiber recruitment. For the lower body portion of the medicine ball modality, we will go into lunges. For the first variation, we will do walking lunges. This lunge in particular activates a lot more of the gluteus maximus, the hamstrings, quadriceps, and both the gastrocnemius and the soleus. So this exercise is great if you want to get lower body activation for all those muscle groups. And for the second variation, we will be going into twisting lunges. What this does is activate a lot more of your obliques for stability, and this introduces the use of a lot more of your core muscles, including the abdominals, to keep your body upright as you're lunging forward. In regards to proper form, you do want to make sure that as you're lunging, you want to keep your legs at a 90-degree angle, both the back leg and the front leg. You want to get a full range of motion almost all the way to the ground, and that way you get proper muscle activation. For the final variation of the medicine ball lunge, we will be going into standing overhead lunges. By doing these lunges, you will activate a lot more of your shoulders, your traps, and your traps to maintain the medicine ball above your body as you're doing the lunge. As we enter our third modality, we will be going into kettlebells. For the first variation, we'll be doing supinated grip bicep curls. And what you want to do for this particular exercise is to use one arm to counterbalance the weight. That way you're not moving your body to a side to keep your body upright or to keep the weight controlled. And whenever you're doing these curls, you want to make sure you have slow, controlled repetitions. And by doing so, you will get a lot more activation of the bicep heads and the forearm. This particular variation will work more of the short head, the inner bicep of the bicep muscle group. Now we're going to be doing neutral grip bicep curls. By doing so, we will be able to target both heads of the bicep muscle group, both the inner and outer heads of the bicep. doing these curls, you want to make sure you're getting slow, controlled contractions and movement overall throughout the entire motion. That way you will be able to target both heads, and you want to make sure not to flare out your elbow or to move it too far forward or too far back, helping you in the curl. For the third variation of these bicep curls, we will be doing the pronated hand grip version of this exercise. This particular exercise will activate more or work more of the outer bicep, the long head of the bicep muscle group, and the upper forearm. Whenever you're performing these curls, these are slightly different, as whenever you're curling, you want to keep your elbow slightly flared out. That way you're able to get that full range of motion all the way to the very top to get a full contraction in the bicep curl. For the lower body portion of the kettlebell modality, we will be doing unilateral or single arm kettlebell swings. For positioning, you want to put your legs slightly beyond shoulder width, if not a shoulder width, and then whenever you're swinging, you want to make sure that you don't go into a deep squat. You do want to have a slight bend in your knees, but you do want to focus more on the swing itself rather than the squat. And whenever doing these kettlebell swings, you do want to make sure that you're using your hips to thrust the kettlebell in front of you, and you end the rep, or right before you drop the kettlebell back down, you want to make sure you're level with your face to get that proper range of motion. You could go all the way to the very top. That is a different exercise, but that would give you more range of motion as opposed to this one. For the third variation of these kettlebell swings, we will be doing unilateral kettlebell swings once again, but with a staggered stance. What this will do is it'll target more of your core and abdominal muscles to keep you stable throughout the entire movement. As you're doing these staggered unilateral kettlebell swings, you will feel a huge difference in how you thrust the kettlebell back up into the air, and it definitely uses a lot more of your core to properly execute. And make sure to keep in mind that you don't want to be, although it is a kettlebell swing, you don't want to overswing or use too much of your body to get that kettlebell to swing right up. Preferably, you want to keep it near eyesight level, and you want to use the momentum of the kettlebell itself to move it back and forth. And for our fourth modality, we will be going into calisthenics or body weight exercises. For the upper body portion of this modality, we will be doing shoulder press. Because these are body weight exercises and you are putting a lot of stress on your joints, you do want to make sure you get a padded surface, or like this mat that I got here, to protect your knees and your wrists. For the first variation, we will be doing kneeling overhead press. And what this will do is that it'll give you a slight advantage when doing these overhead presses, so it's a lot easier. When performing the overhead press, you do want to flare your elbows out and get your head as close as the mat as you can. You don't want to rest on the mat, but you do want to get fairly close, and that way you get a full range of motion and proper activation. The shoulder press will target your shoulders, triceps, and the upper part of your chest. For the second variation, we will be doing incline shoulder press. To do this shoulder press, you will want to get something to get you on that incline. It could really be anything, but here I'm using a bench press, flat bench. And what you want to do is find a comfortable position to perform this exercise. You could move up or down to make it slightly easier or slightly harder, but here I found the best spot, because if you do go too far out, you will feel more of the stretch, and it'll target more of your hamstrings than it is your upper body, so you do want to find that comfortable spot for you. The incline shoulder press will be slightly harder than the kneeling variation, as you do have more body weight coming forward when you're performing this exercise. And for the third variation, we will go into a fully extended shoulder press. This would be the final variation, as it is the hardest variation. This one requires you to be in a V position with your legs shoulder width apart and your hands shoulder width apart. And whenever you're performing this part of the exercise, you want to keep your knees not locked out, but you do want to keep them fairly straight. If you could bend your knees to make this a little bit easier. But here you do want to have the full range of motion, so you want to stay straight and put all of your emphasis on your shoulders during this exercise. So you do want to keep firm on your core, your legs, and have controlled repetitions as you're coming up and down. And one thing to mention, the shoulder press is really good for your elbows to increase longevity. For the lower body portion of the calisthenics modality, we will be doing step-ups, and for the first step-up variation, we'll be doing traditional step-ups. For step-ups, you want to have an elevated surface. There is box jump platforms, but here I'm using a cushion box jump platform, and what you want to do is firmly plant one foot on top of the raised surface, and as you're coming up on the step-up, you don't want to use any you don't want to use the rest of your body to get you up, so you do want to have a slow controlled movement. If you do push off or use your momentum, you will activate less of the muscles when performing this. Now for the second variation, we will be doing curtsy step-ups. For the curtsy step-up, you will be in a valgus position with your leg, the one that's raised on the platform. And what this will do is that it'll engage a lot more of your inner thigh, a lot more of your quadriceps, and it'll activate more of your stability or stabilize your muscles to perform the step-up correctly. Whenever you're doing the step up, same thing like the other one, you don't want to use your momentum to come on the way up. You do want to isolate that muscle, so you do want to have the slow, controlled repetitions. And here, I did move the box, you do get a different point of view of how I'm performing the step up. Whenever you're performing the step up, you do want to have a slight pause at the top. That way you're getting maximal contraction throughout the range of movement. For the third variation, we'll be doing lateral step-ups. The lateral step-up will activate more of your quads and your glutes throughout the range of movement, and this particular step-up does require a bit more coordination and stability muscles. All three variations of this step-up exercise are unilateral, so they do help with unilateral weakness, and they improve balance and coordination in the lower body. Entering our fifth modality, we will be going into dumbbells. So for the first variation, for the first exercise, we will be doing overhead press with our dumbbells. For the overhead press, for proper form, you want to keep your elbows slightly flared out, not all the way flared out. You do want to have them at a 45-degree angle, and that way you get optimal range of motion throughout the repetition. When performing these overhead presses, you do want to have a slight pause at the bottom and at the top of the repetition so that you activate all of your muscles appropriately. The shoulder press does activate your forearms, triceps, biceps, upper chest, and the shoulders. So this is a great way to increase your upper body strength. And then for the overhead press, you do want to go with a lighter weight unless you could do more. Here I'm just doing roughly around 12 reps per variation so that I could do a proper demonstration. For the second variation of our overhead press with the dumbbells, we will be doing our half kneeling overhead press. For this press, the form of the arms, or the proper form of the arms, is the exact same as the seated version. The only difference is that your lower body is in a staggered stance, so it does make you use a lot more of your obliques and your core abdominal muscles to stabilize yourself throughout the entire range of motion. And then here is a side view so you get to see the proper form. You do want to have your legs at a 90-degree angle, both the front and rear leg. That way you are in a fully stable position. For the third and final variation of the overhead press, we'll be doing standing overhead press. Here you can see that I am showing to keep the same exact form. The only difference is that now you will be using more of your rectus spinae muscles, more of your abdominal muscles, and stabilization muscles on your obliques to keep yourself even more stabilized throughout this range of motion. Because these are free weights, it is a lot harder than for, say, using a Smith machine. So this is a great workout to improve balance and coordination. For the lower body portion of the dumbbell modality, we will be doing calf raises, and for the first variation, we will be doing standing calf raises. For the standing calf raise, you want to have your legs shoulder width and your hands right next to your hips. For this particular exercise, you could load a lot more weight since the soleus and the gastrocnemius do need a lot more load since they're typically type 1 fibers, so you do want to put a lot more load on them if you want to see exponential growth. And when you're doing These raises, you do want to have a slight pause at the top and on the bottom of the repetition. That way you're getting full muscle contraction of both heads of the gastrocnemius and the soleus. For the second variation of the dumbbell calf raise, we will be doing seated calf raises. For the seated calf raise, this one is slightly different from the standing because you don't have to stabilize yourself or the rest of your body weight whenever you're performing these. So these you could even load a lot more than the standing calf raise to get the same effect as the standing calf raise. This one just helps isolating those calf muscles, and what you could do is change the angle of your ankle, of your foot. You could point your toes inwards or outwards, and that would target different sides of the gastrocnemius. For the final variation of the calf raise with dumbbells, we will be doing the farmer's walk on toes. For the farmer's walk, you could do this two different ways. You could do it as I'm doing it here, just tippy-toeing your way back and forth with your weights. And what this does is that it keeps a constant contraction on your calves as you're doing the walk. The other way you could do this is going down and then going back up quickly, which would be a more explosive farmer's walk, but both have the same results. And for all three variations, the repetitions could be pretty high. Here I'm doing from 15 to 20, just because the soleus and the gastrocnemius, like I mentioned earlier, do need a lot more loading since you're walking every day. For our last modality, we are going into barbell training, and we will be doing bench press for the upper body exercises. For these exercises, I'm doing 10 to 12 reps, and for this particular one, we are doing the narrow grip bench press. For narrow grip, you do want to put your hands inside shoulder width or in between shoulder width, and whenever you're doing these bench presses, you do want to have controlled repetitions, so you do activate all of those muscles. With close grip, you target the triceps a lot more, and the outer chest. And to have stability when doing this particular exercise, you do want to have your feet planted flat on the ground. You could arch or arc your back, but it is a lot better to isolate the muscle group, so it's better to stay laying flat. For the second variation of the bench press, we're going to be doing shoulder width grip bench press. For this particular bench press, this will target um, all muscles of the chest. It won't isolate the upper or the lower parts of the chest. And same as the first variation, you do want to have slow, controlled movements. You want to pause at the top, pause at the bottom, and you don't want to bounce the barbell off your chest. That is one common mistake. Another would be to be overloading the barbell, so you do want to find a comfortable weight so you could have multiple reps. For the final variation of the barbell bench press, we will be going with wide grip. So wide grip bench press is the hardest variation of all three because this does target a lot of the outer chest and a lot of the triceps. You want to do the same thing as you did for the first two variations, slow controlled movements, especially on these. And for this one, if you do want to get proper form, you could load it a lot less, so you could perform it with proper form. For the lower body portion of the barbell modality, we will be going into deadlifts. And to start with the first variation, we will do snatch grip deadlifts. For the snatch grip, you want to have the same or similar stance to a traditional deadlift, but instead of having your grip at shoulder width, you want to have it wide on the bar. And same with any deadlift, you want to keep the bar close to your body, having slow, controlled movements, having that full range of motion, making sure your back is straight throughout the entire exercise. This particular deadlift is really good for working your triceps and your latissimus dorsi, and deadlifts are a great structural exercise which increase your bone density. And here I've included another view so you get to see the proper form of the deadlift. For our second variation, we'll be going into sumo deadlifts. For the sumo deadlift, you want to have a narrow grip on the barbell and you want to have a wide lower body stance. Whenever doing this lower body stance, you want to keep your knees at a 90-degree angle as you're coming down and the bar close to your body throughout the entire range of motion. For the last variation, we will be performing Romanian deadlifts. And to do these Romanian deadlifts, for proper form, you do want to have your legs at shoulder width and your hands slightly past shoulder width. And the purpose of this variation is to engage more of your erector spinae muscles. And to perform this exercise with proper form, you want to pretend that you're pushing something with your rear, and that way you're getting proper form throughout the entire range of movement. And same with other squats, you do want to keep that bar pretty close, and you have control movements through the entire rep. And for a different angle, right here, I will emphasize the proper form when performing these Romanian deadlifts. When performing the deadlift, you do want to make sure the bar goes past your knee slightly and that you go all the way up, getting as straight as you can. Following our last modality, we will go into the cool-down segment. To start the cool-down segment, we will go into leg swings for 2 minutes. By doing leg swings, this is a dynamic stretch that allows us to keep our blood moving at a much slower pace than a deadlift, and this allows us to but distribute that lactic acid around our body to prepare us for the following training session a lot faster. When performing these leg swings, you do want to make sure you find a stable position, preferably a wall, to put your arms right up against, and you want to get pretty close to the wall so that you have full control of your leg swing. During the leg swing, on the kick-up part, the kick-up phase, you do want to make sure you get level to your hips, if not a little bit higher. And on the back swing, you want to go as far as you can, just to a point of discomfort, not one that hurts. This cool down will emphasize on your lower body, and it'll make sure to cool down those abductors and adductor muscles in your hips. Right after our leg swings, we will go into arm circles for 2 minutes. By doing these arm circles, you will be using your traps, your shoulders, your latissimus dorsi, and your chest muscles to move all of that lactic acid buildup to other muscle groups across your body. As mentioned earlier, to increase that recovery time or to speed up that recovery time for the following training session. And this focuses mainly on the upper body and some parts of your core. When performing your arm circles, you do want to make sure you get that full range of motion. You could opt and do smaller arm circles, but if you want to increase your range of motion, you do want to go all the way to the very top and all the way to the far side of your body to make sure you get appropriate activation of those big muscle groups to get an appropriate cool down. Following our arm circles, we will want to go into a 6-minute jog to walk cool down on a treadmill. As we're performing this cool down, you do want to slowly bring the speed of the treadmill down from your jogging pace to a walking pace. I did it about every 2 minutes or so, and that way I was able to cool down my body properly throughout this exercise. Whenever you're doing this cool down, I did make sure to make this one slightly longer than the warm up, and I put a lot of emphasis on this very last cool down because the easiest way to cool down your body is to go from a jog to a walk, as you're able to bring down your heart rate closer to resting, which prepares you for your next activity the following day, and it does improve your recovery time for the following training session. Okay guys, thank you for sticking around. We completed the workout. I hope you got something out of it, and if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below.